All right, so you should all see my Google Chrome layout at the moment. All right, so I'm going to kick off today by talking about some of the new profile features that are available on LinkedIn. Over the last year, LinkedIn has made some pretty big changes to the things that you can add to your profile to kind of increase your story and to better, tell a more robust and creative and, our colorful version of you versus just what's on your resume. So if you go over to your profile, you're going to see a whole host of things. For instance, one of the newer things, I think it's been probably about a year, is that you can add your pronouns. You can do this by clicking on the edit your intro section. And so it'll give you the opportunity to select your pronouns. You can also add, this isn't new, but it's more unknown. You can also add emojis to your headline. And in our coaching work, we talk about how to create engaging headlines. So sometimes people will add these to kind of help their headline pop. We look at your headline as why does somebody want to click on your profile when you pop up in a search result? If I just said resume writer on here, it would blend in with a lot of the other resume writers that people are searching out. So by adding just a little bit more in there, you can, give more of here's why you should click on my profile. You have about, I think it's 260 characters with your headline now. So make it more than just your current title, and it'll help spice up and create a more engaging experience. The other thing that you can add, and you have to do it from your phone, is some more, there's visual and audio components to your introduction that you can add now. So if you go into this section on your mobile, on the app, you can add a video message, or a cover story, I think is what they call it. You can also add a name pronunciation. Now, LinkedIn is really focusing on adding in visual components to attract to more of the Gen Zs that are now entering the workforce. We're in an interesting phase in the universe where we have 4 working generations at the moment. So for those of us that are a little less comfortable with video, this is starting to be more of the way of the world. And I think this is a really great kind of first step for LinkedIn to kind of incorporate video in more of an organic way. So I'm gonna show you an example of what that might look like. Hopefully you can hear it. Sometimes the video translation will come through a little weird, but you should at least be able to see where it shows up. So on your phone, if you want to add this, you would add it by tapping on your profile picture, and it'll say add a cover story. And it would, I think you have 30 seconds. This is what it would look like.
I don't think the audio comes through on our side, but just so you know.
Okay, so basically Amanda just says, hey, I'm Amanda. I'm the senior communications at LinkedIn. Reach out to me if you're interested in X, Y, and Z, essentially is what she says on there. The other thing that you can add, you'll see a little microphone next to her, a little call out thing next to her name. That is what you can click on to hear her name pronunciation. You can also do this by clicking the edit your intro section on your mobile device. These are 2 features that have to be done through your mobile device.
Actually, can I correct that? I think I think that this part with the pronunciation you can now do on your computer.
Let's take a look.
I believe. Oh, no.
Maybe it may be that it's rolling out.
I think because I think on mine I could, but you're right. The way they roll it out, maybe on mine it is, and yours it doesn't show up that way. But I'm pretty sure I was able to do it from my computer.
Yeah. So that's definitely something. This is something LinkedIn is notorious for, is not giving everybody the same feature all at once. It's just the way they kind of roll it out and work out the kinks. But you should be able to, from either one of the 2, be able to do it. And hopefully it sounds like everybody will have that feature soon to be able to do it from their device. There are some other features beyond the introduction that we should touch on. One of the newest is the way you incorporate your skills into your profile. Previously, you would have to scroll all the way down. So let me actually go to my, no, this is actually my profile. You'd go all the way to the bottom of your profile to see your skills and endorsements section. Now, this is still true that you can do that. You can find your skills in this section. But one of the things that LinkedIn has added on that I think is really rad is that they're giving you the opportunity within your experience section to call out the top 5 skills that you utilized, which is great if somebody's just looking for a quick snapshot on what was it that you did in that role. So if you go to edit your experience now, and this is very, very recent. I just noticed this in the last couple of weeks. It rolled out and I'm not even seeing it on all the profiles that I'm working within. So if it's not available to you yet, keep checking. So you would go into edit your experience and then you would scroll down and it says add the top 5 skills. And then what it does is it populates not only in this section, but also in your skill section below. So it's, even if it's already listed below, you can add it there, you can, and it'll make sure to keep it streamlined, but it is a great way to showcase like, hey, if you just want a snapshot, this is what this role is all about. The featured section.
Hang on.
Okay,
Hey, Liz,
yeah.
can you also scroll down to the skills section and pull
Sure.
up one of them? Because it looks a little different when you're down below.
Yes, and I actually, so yes, so I'm.
Just so that they can see that, because there's 2 ways to do it. So if you hit, yeah.
So, and skills have also changed. They used to be really particular about pinning the top 3 skills. They're doing away with that. And now you can actually order your skills in whatever order you want. So you can alphabetize them, you can list them in order of importance. They're really changing the way that you're seeing those skills. And
Yeah, but hang on, if you hit the pencil next to one of those,
sure.
I just want them to see, because if you hit the pencil, it'll say, tell us where you put these skills to use, and you can do it under experience, education, volunteering, organizations. So there's just like 2 ways to go about it. So you can do it in the job, and I think, but you can also from the skills section, you could go through your skills section, say, hey, I want to make sure that I put these in certain places.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Okay. So skills, your intro section, these are like pretty big components to, they're starting to be like components that LinkedIn is evolving the way that they manage them. The other area that you can consider adjusting on your profile is whether you go into creator mode. Creator mode is something that you will see on your profile under resources. Now I have creator mode turned on. Julia has it turned, Julia and Ellen, I believe both have it turned on as well. Creator mode is great if you're someone who produces a lot of content on LinkedIn, if you're someone who is you know, creating events or posting content, or new and engaging content versus just sharing other news. It will change a few things. So for instance, if I were to look at Julia's profile well, I'm connected to Julia right now, but if you are not connected to one of us, the first thing it would show is to follow us versus connect with us. Now there's a difference in that language. Following, anybody can follow. That doesn't have to be a 2-way street. Following just means that you want to see what we're talking about, right? But we don't necessarily know each other personally, right? Versus connecting, where it's a 2-way street. We're both agreeing that we are mutual connections to one another, and it shows up as a first-degree connection when others are looking to see who they might know. So the follow feature is great when you're looking to follow influencers that are relevant to your space that you want to get more insight from, or companies for that matter, versus connecting where you're actually saying, hey, we know each other. And that is available to follow someone. Typically, I think it's the primary feature if they're in creator mode. Another new feature that I think is really, really unique, and I think we want to talk about, Julia, please feel free to chime in on this one, because I think we work with enough of a variety of clients where there's different positions to take on it, is that LinkedIn has now added a section for adding a career break. So if you have had a hiatus, or if you took maybe a longer than expected break between two roles, or maybe you decided that you were going to travel for a long time or care for parents. LinkedIn is providing a section for you to explain career gaps. Now, there are lots of different theories around what is appropriate and how it's viewed. I think it depends on, it's a very individual concept that you can't, like, I can't just blanket say do this or don't do that. I think it really depends on your story and how that time really impacts the way you tell your story. Julia, do you have any other insight that you like to share on? I know we've been playing around with this feature and it's fairly
No, I
new,
would just,
so-
can you hit the plus and almost show what it would
Sure,
look
sure.
like when when it starts? I know we're not going to actually add it, but see
Yep.
how it looks different. It says add a position or add a career break.
Yep. So it looks the same as if you were adding a new role, right? As if you were adding a new current position or previous position. So it'll give you all the different types of breaks that they're suggesting, right? So it's, you know, you can put in bereavement or career transition, a gap year. And, you know, what we're seeing is that these types of breaks are becoming, I don't know, there's a little bit more empathy around these breaks in the employment world. But it is a very case by case basis, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's, you know, I think right now it's not a widely used feature, and I don't know how it's necessarily being received, but I think in general, it's really designed because of the millennial generation and Gen Z that, you know, actually values taking sabbaticals and taking time off. And of course, so many people are caring for family, and the pandemic made such a big difference. So that's why they added this in. I think it's actually going to be a pretty well embraced area because it's going to help explain, you know, from a recruiter standpoint, if the recruiter's looking at a profile, they're like, gosh, that person left their job in, you know, December of 2021. What have they been doing for the last 6-7 months? This can give a little bit of a placeholder to maybe talk about that, because then you still have your subject area where you can type in whatever you want. So I think you got to know how and when you want to use it, but I think it was a good ad for the right person.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's definitely going to help pave the way for a more empathetic, you know, corporate
I
environment.
I think the feature's only been out for about, well, it's been this year. It came out in 2022.
Yeah.
So we'll have to just monitor that. Okay, so we
Yeah.
have about 10 more minutes, Liz.
Yep. Yeah. So
So-
I wanted to pass it off to you, and we can talk engagement, and then if we can tap into job search, some of those additional,
Mhm.
you know, features we can tack onto that. But I'll pass it off to you, Julia.
Okay. Let me then.
I will stop my share.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Hang on a quick second. Okay, so let me share my screen. Hopefully you can all see that. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to talk about in LinkedIn that a lot of people just don't think of is how to sort of engage with people. How do you get in touch with people? So I work with a lot of people who are in some kind of a job transition. Maybe they're trying to change careers. Maybe they're trying to move over to another company. They're trying to build their network, maybe realign what their network is, or maybe they're actually moving. So if you are, we're in the Bay Area, let's say you're in the Bay Area, but you're moving to Seattle. When you move to Seattle, one of the first things I tell people is you have to start right now building up a network in Seattle so that you come up on searches when companies are looking for somebody like you. So there's a whole bunch of things that have to happen, but from a visibility standpoint, most recruiters use zip codes as one of the defining search components so that they can zero in on a certain population. Even with the remote status, they can also on their end, they can, because they use a different, by the way, LinkedIn platform, quite frankly, that gives them a different visibility. They can say they're looking for remote people, but even today, we're hearing from companies, even though they will hire people remotely, there's still a sort of bend to trying to find people who may work remotely, but be within driving distance of their company, so that if things change or if they decide to bring people in, they aren't paying for airfare and hotels and so on, people can still get there. So if you are moving to another area, you still want to think of like, how do I build up that audience so that I'm showing up. So you may want to change your zip code, but you also want to have connections, because it's those second, third, fourth degree connections that often help somebody find you. If hopefully you guys kind of know how the algorithm, how LinkedIn works. So I want to show you a few things that I think are important in LinkedIn to kind of create some form of engagement. So let me kind of start first of all by just showing you what's in a post. So if you look at this post, this just popped up this morning. And if you notice here, if I wanted to comment on this or anything, or if I wanted to do anything right now, I have, see where it says like. Well, like all started because Facebook had the like. They now have 7 emoticons that you can hit. So you can hit like, you can hit celebrate, support, funny. I think this just came out in the last week because I saw it for the first time about 2 days ago. Love, insightful, and curious. It is more than fine to do any of these, but here's the thing. If you are trying to get visibility, if you are in a job search, or you're trying to change careers, or you're trying to become a thought leader and you want people to find you and to see you, this feature of doing the like doesn't give you a lot more visibility. What it does is the person who posted it can maybe look through who clicked one of these, and other people might, if they're sort of voyeuristic and curious, they can try to see, who did that. Like I could hit this 66 and I could see who may have done things, and that's fine, but it doesn't really get more visibility to your profile. Now, one of the things it does do is if you hit like, so let's say I hit like right here, and I'm just going to use like because that's an easy one. And if I go back to my profile and I go down to my activity, and I'm going to show all activity, and hopefully, show all activity. There's sometimes a delay. No, it showed up. You can see that I liked this. Here's where I think it can be valuable in this. If you are following a company and you are paying attention to what they're doing, and you have applied for a job, or you're interviewing for a position, the company, the recruiters or the hiring managers may go into your profile and say, well, wonder what he or she, is paying attention to on LinkedIn. It shows up in your activity, and they can say, oh, guess what? He or she is following us and they're liking the things that we're doing. So companies tend to want to, talk to people who are engaging with them and paying attention to what they're doing. So that is, that's valuable, but it doesn't otherwise really get you a lot of visibility. So I'm going to go back to my home page here and show you a few things. So you can do that. You can share this profile or share this. So if I want to do that, I could repost and I can, share my thoughts. But here's what LinkedIn has told us. LinkedIn has told us that if you like, if you're not liking as in the little emoticon, but if you think that a post is really good and you want to share that post, you want other people to see the post, the way the algorithm works on LinkedIn is that it prefers that instead of sharing it, that you actually repost the post. So let's see if I can find one here that's, so let's say I want to repost this. I can click here. I'm going to take the URL. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to my news feed. I can go back up here. I can go into start a post, and I can say, I'm just going to be very simple here. This is not what I would do, but I'm just going to say great post so that I get some kind of content in there. I could do that, and then I'm going to copy in that and see it's now showing up. LinkedIn tells us that actually posting it fresh instead of sharing it, the algorithm of LinkedIn, the algorithm of the internet and everything, this will get more visibility to your profile. So if you're like, hey, I want people to know that I'm out here, it is more applicable or more important to post it. Now, a couple of things that LinkedIn also tells us is that if you want to get visibility, there's some great tools that you can do in here. One is hashtags. Hashtags works with sort of the algorithm of how search engines work. You could come down here and you can hashtag, or you could write in here. You could put in anything that you want, and you'll see, like if I put in, great job, there's things that pop up. If I want to put in Supreme Court, I get this sort of menu of things that start with Supreme, and I could choose any of them. LinkedIn recommends 3 hashtags. That 3 hashtags is a really good kind of number to use to help get sort of visibility. So you want to be conscious of what you're putting in. Don't put in just anything. Like for us, we often put in career coach, even though I consider myself a career strategist. Career strategist does not actually, from a Google Analytics standpoint, get as much of a draw as career coach. So we use the hashtag career coach. We might use interviewing. So there are different, things that we can that we can use. So sorry, that sort of clicked off for a second. I don't know where that just went. So at any rate, you can use hashtags, but 3 is recommended. I see some people who put in 10, and from what LinkedIn tells us, the 10 is actually too much. So don't use that. So I'm going to flip back over here. If you're looking down here, you could share, you could send. When you send, you are sending to individual people. So I could send this, but I'm going to do this probably person by person. If you send it to multiple people, there's no way to send to multiple people as like a BCC. It's almost like creating a group chat instead. So this can be very applicable. If I saw a great article on interviewing and I wanted 3 or 4 people to see it, yeah, I might send it to those 3 or 4 people as a group if I felt like they already know each other and they wouldn't be bothered by that. But I wouldn't do that if these are like disparate people who don't know each other, because that might feel kind of weird. But that's what sending does. So it's usually individual or group of people who all, would be creating kind of a group chat. But the number one way that LinkedIn says to get visibility on your profile is to comment. So if I go in to hit comment, I can say anything I want here. But this is where I think it can be very valuable if you are trying to get on the radar of somebody or of a company, is to look at what that person or that company is posting, which, by the way, you can go into the activity of anybody, whether you're connected to them or not, or a company, whether you're following them or not. And you can look at the activity of the posts and see maybe what you want to engage with. But when you comment, LinkedIn tells us that this gives us like 2 times the visibility. And here's why. Because when you comment on a post, the person who did the original post is typically going to look at you. And if you have done this well and not said something fluffy like, hey, thanks for posting this, which you can, but if you do something more that says, oh, that article was really insightful, that taught me something, I learned this, I really enjoyed that you pointed out this one feature, I found that kind of interesting, and then maybe ask a question, do some kind of a call to action, something that gets a person to respond back, then you can create some kind of a dialogue with that original poster. Also, people like to read some of the posts, and sometimes they get kind of engaging. So if you are putting something worthwhile in your comment, you're going to get other viewers who are going to read what you have said. You're going to get the original content writer who's going to read what you said, and you can get some kind of an engagement. And where this can be really valuable is, let's say you are trying to get in front of the VP of marketing at some company, and you're following what they're doing, or you're seeing what they're posting. If you start some kind of a comment and a dialogue and they respond back, and you create kind of a back and forth, it's really easy at that point to invite them to connect. And once you invite them to connect, A, you've got them as a connection, but B, all of their first degree connections become your second degree connections. So if you're trying to get into that company, you're going to come up higher in the search for anybody who's looking for you from that company, because you are now second degree connections and not like a fifth or sixth or seventh degree connection. So that's very important. The other thing to know is that you can tag, and I'm going to just see, there's no tag in this one. I had one up before that they had some tags in it. Let me jump over. I'm going to jump over to Christy Winchester. She is somebody I do some consulting with sometimes. And Christy Winchester, if I go down to her activity here, I'm going to look at one of her posts, and that's a different one. Okay, so here, so she works for Torchiana, and Torchiana had an event and she tagged a person. And so very often, like you'll even look at our posts, we often will tag, I'll tag Liz and Ellen, I'll tag other people and they'll tag as well. It's a really good way of engaging somebody else that you might be connected with so that they see what you're doing. So again, let's say you've got a former boss, you want them to know that you're still out there, that because they're going to be a reference for you, but you don't really have a reason to talk to them, but you can tag them in posts if you saw something that was very interesting and you want them to maybe read that or let them know that you're thinking of them. You can tag somebody in a post and then it's going to show up in their notifications, and that might get them to read whatever that post is. So again, if I jump over to mine and I go down to my activity, I'm going to do this, do the show all activity, just because I think that that's helpful. Oh, sorry, I want to go up to my posts. So of course you all saw that we posted this the other day. So I did the hashtags here, and I guess I didn't tag anybody in that one. So that's not a great example, but I could have tagged, Liz and Ellen in here. So it's a way for it to show up in those notifications. Here's another thing I want to show you, and I'm going to, I think if I go into Liz, I will see it there. See this bell? This is what a lot of people have not noticed, this bell. This bell, if you are trying to engage with somebody and you want to see what they're doing and get notifications about what that particular person is doing, you hit the bell. And so now what's going to happen is in your notifications, I'm going to see if whenever Liz does something, it's going to show up in my notifications. If I like Palo Walker, you're on my screen over here on the side. If I want to see what Palo's doing, I'm going to hit the bell on Palo's page. And then whenever Palo does something, it's going to send me a notification that you have now posted something or commented on something. So it's a really great way, because people worry about that. They're like, there's 20 people, 40 people. I'm trying to pay attention to what they're doing. How do I filter through everything? The bell is really helpful in that. So anyway, those are some of the things that we want to share. We could make this a 2-hour presentation and then come back next week and have another 2 hours. So LinkedIn is one of those things that we will be talking about this every few months, but because we always like this to be an open forum for people to ask questions, I'm going to sort of take this off. I'll keep my screen up here and just in case anybody's looking at LinkedIn. But does anybody have any questions that they want to ask? It can be about LinkedIn. It can be about interviewing. It could be about salary. Let's open it up to everybody.